Peace and blessing, family. It's your man Maarifa, and welcome to Bible study. That's right, an esoteric Bible study that we're going to be discussing esoteric, deeper meanings of the biblical scriptures to give you that scriptural meaning beyond the theologian viewpoint, beyond the apologetic Christian viewpoint. All right, so we're going to look at the scriptures, and as normal, we're going to be talking about Genesis chapter 2. This is Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to be coming from the King James Study Bible. This is where we're going to be reading from. So let's get right into it. Here we go. Chapter 2, verse 1. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Pause right there. So when you look at this verse in particular, and you look at how society is ran today, it is governed by this principle of rest. So we have a work week, right, that we're governed by. So when the Christians created the standard by which, society should be ran, there should be a day of rest. So for most people who work, it's the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, days of rest. So you're following these principles in the Bible story, right, of taking a day off. Okay, so that's where we get it from. All right, going on, verse 4. These are the generations of the heavens and of the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. Okay, so now going back to chapter 1, verse 26, when God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth on the earth." So God created man in his own likeness, in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. But then you fast forward to chapter 2 and verse 5, and it says, "Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was not a man to till the ground." So allegedly it's stating here there's no one on the earth. But in chapter 1, they said they made man and woman in their own image. Okay, so it's confusing how the author of this book, and we already told you in the previous video, in Genesis chapter 1 video, we broke down that the Greeks and the Romans created the story, and it was evolved and perpetuated by the English, the British English, through the Roman Catholic Church, and they created this creation story, all right, based on African mythological principles that was already a part of ancient Egyptian culture for many centuries before the dynastic period, 6000 BC all the way up. Okay, all right, so now verse 6. "But there went out a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground." Now we're talking about Tefnut again. Tefnut, the goddess of moisture, the goddess of rain, the goddess of precipitation. This is the ancient African deity of the Egyptian pantheon, Tefnut, that they're discussing right here. You have to study Egyptian mythology in order for you to get the meaning of this verse, verse 6, chapter 2 of Genesis. All right. Then we move on to verse 7. "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul." Stop right there. Okay. Many parts in this verse. Okay, many parts we have to break down the esoteric, deeper meaning of this verse. All right. It says, and the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground. Now, where did the dust of the ground come from? A lot of Christians will believe that it's from the earth. It's dirt. You know, that's what people will say. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. From the ground you came, and from the ground you shall return. All of that stuff like that, right? When you die. So they say this stuff at funerals, right? That's why they throw dirt on the casket when it goes into the ground when you go to funerals. Well, from this perspective, the dust of the ground, we're talking about a cosmic dust. The cosmic dust, the esoteric meaning of it, from space. The cosmic dust from space, which are atoms and elements and particles, you know, that make up the atom. The atom and the molecular elements, scientific elements that make up the atom. All right. So when God in this verse is creating that image, or not image, but that physical person, the man, it is creating it from the atoms. The molecules from the atoms are being formed, and they're coming together from the dust of the cosmos, the universe, that is pretty much coming down from the cosmos onto the earth. All right. And when it says breathe into his nostrils the breath of life, that is the energy, the spiritual energy coming into and breathing life into the human body, the physical body. All right. So there's two parts of you. You are a physical being, and then on the inside, you're a spiritual, energetic being. You're a spiritual, energetic being is your personality. It's who you are. This is me. This is who I'm talking right now. This is the way I'm talking. This is me. But you see me as a physical. When I'm talking to you, that's my personality. That's me, my spiritual energy. That will never change. I will always be that as I evolve through my many life experiences. So the energy will continue to evolve. All right. Now, from this particular verse 7, they got the story from Khnum, ancient Egyptian god Khnum, who was the first god of the dynastic period. They worshipped in 2900 BCE, and Khnum was the god of fertility as well as the human aspects of creation. So Khnum fashioned man on the potter's wheel made of clay. So they got the concept from Khnum. Khnum was the god that was worshipped way down in Esna. You can go to the temple of Khnum right now today in Egypt, in Esna, the city of Esna, which is a little bit further south, about 50 miles south of Luxor. And you can go to the temple of Khnum, and you can see chiseled in stone that Khnum, it was Khnum, which is depicted as a ram with the body of a man. So that god was anthropomorphized on the temples in Egypt, and he looked like a ram, right? Had the head of a ram, the body of a man, right? So you will see on the walls in ancient Egypt, Khnum fashioning a man, a little small man, on a potter's wheel made of clay. So this is what Khnum was known for: procreation, okay? Fertility, and procreation. So this is what verse 7 is referencing. When the Greeks and the Romans wrote their version of the creation story, they were they conquered into North Africa, which is Egypt, and they saw all of the evidence on the walls in ancient Egypt, the stones. They don't go anywhere. Like I told you in the first video, you can't erase stone carvings in the stone. Those are limestone. They can't erase it. So it's carved in the wall. So the Greeks knew this, so they had to use the knowledge and corrupt it somehow, some way in their mythological story that they gave you, their version. All right. So they got the idea from the god Khnum. Okay. Moving forward. Verse 8. All right. And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for the food, the tree of life. Very important. We're going to talk about that tree of life in the next chapters. Also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Okay? So, picture this. The Garden of Eden is eastward. Okay? Eastward. Everyone's trying to find the location of the Garden of Eden. Everybody for centuries has been trying to prove this Bible to be something real when it's not. It's a mythological story. But people like researchers, anthropologists, and people that go on digs and they go on site visits and stuff like that, and they dig and try to dig up bones and artifacts and all of that stuff to try to find evidence and proof, of the existence of this book. They try to find it, and all they find is this African relics. Every time they dig up stuff, they find more and more African relics. So they be like, man, they find bones of the Africans, artifacts of the Africans, architectural structures of the Africans. Everything is African. So that's why they stopped digging. They really don't like to dig as much as they used to, but they found a lot of African artifacts and stuff all over the world. Not just in Africa, all over the world, because Africans were populated all over the globe. Okay? So, and they left trace evidence of themselves. So when you're looking at the Garden of Eden, and people try to find the location of Garden of Eden, right? So it said eastward in Eden, okay? And then it said the tree of life. The tree of life. We're going to talk heavily about that in the next few chapters. And then also the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Each one of us are on this planet to learn something, to gain some knowledge, and have this life experience that you're going through. So you're going to have some good times and you're going to have some bad times. So you're going to have the duality of good and evil. All right. You can't have one without the other. All right. Everything is duality. You have a left hand, you have a right hand. You have two eyes, you got two lips, two nostrils, two ears. Everything is duality. All right. So good and evil, left to right, you know what I'm saying? Boy, girl, male, female, you know what I'm saying? All of that stuff, black and white, so it's the opposite. You always have to have the opposite of everything. It's duality. That's how we're made. Okay. That's how this life is. So once you understand that, you understand the tree of good and evil. All right. Now, the tree of life, something totally different. We're going to talk about that. I'm telling you, wait till we get to the next couple of chapters. All right. Moving on. Verse 10. And a river went out of Eden. Now listen here. A river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became into four heads. Four heads. Okay. The river split, allegedly, in this book story, into four heads, like the head of the river, and then another, and then you get another head and another head and another of the river, and then it splits, okay, and goes to different locations. Now, verse 11, it says, the name of the first is Pison, that is, which compasses the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. All right. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and onyx stone. All right. So Havilah, where has Havilah located at? So they've done research, and everybody excavated sites and all that stuff like that. And researchers have, anthropologists, all that stuff, went on digs and all of this, that, and the third. And they come to discover that Havilah is in Somalia. This is Eastern Africa, all right, which is south of Ethiopia, okay? The next country underneath that is Ethiopia, then is Somalia, okay? So right there on eastern part of Africa. And then when you go back to verse 8 in chapter 2, it says, and the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. So it's telling you, it's giving you an indication where the Garden of Eden is located, or was located, all right, in the story, okay? And it's giving you clues to let you know that it is in Africa. Africa has the most minerals and resources on the planet. All over there's no other place on the planet that has more minerals and resources than Africa. And when it mentions here in verse 12, and the gold of that land is good, and there's bdellium and onyx stone, they're talking about minerals. They're talking about resources and things that are coming from the earth, naturally created, okay? So they're giving you a clue, an indication of where Eden is located. All right. So keep that in mind. Let's move forward. Verse 13. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasses the whole land of Ethiopia. There you go. Right there. Okay. So it's telling you the second river, Gihon, is in Ethiopia. Where's Ethiopia? In Africa. Okay. It's eastward of Africa. And which river is beneath that? Havilah. Havilah is in Somalia. Okay. So you're looking at two rivers, right there, allegedly in Africa, according to the story. All right. Now, moving forward. The name, okay, we're going on to verse 14. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. That is it which goeth towards the east of Assyria. Now we're talking about Iraq, which going way up north. All right. So Iraq, which you already know, is right there near Syria. So Syria, Iraq, Iran, and all of that area. And you see where the Muslims are right now in modern day. So Assyria, right? And the fourth river is Euphrates. Now, Euphrates River right now is geographically located in that same region, in Assyria. It starts in Turkey and it goes down to Assyria, down through, Syria, and then through Iraq and out through Persian Gulf. Okay. So how do you have two locations or four locations, four head rivers from the Garden of Eden? So the author of this story, chapter 2, really messed this up, geographically messed up this book. They didn't know anything about geography. Obviously, this author was very ignorant when it came to geography and location. So how do you have four heads of a river, right? Two of which are in Africa, East Africa, and then the other two are in Iraq, which is northeast of that location. So if you look at a map, you pull up a map of Iraq and Ethiopia, you'll see it's something like this. Okay. Ethiopia is down here in Africa, and Iraq is over here near the Persian Gulf, in that region near Syria and Iraq. Okay. So how do you get two rivers and one Eden? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense geographically. So that's a huge mistake, huge error. I mean, if you're thinking rationally, if you know geographic locations and you know maps, you'll notice that. That's just not possible, okay? All right, so verse 15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. All right, so where's the Garden of Eden located, they trying to say? All right, so it's in Africa. We know it's in Africa, but they try to throw you off with this. Oh, it's in Euphrates River is here also, but you have four heads. How do you have four heads in one one location and one separate from the other? It's not geographically possible. But here it's stating that the man that was created, in verse 7, was placed in the Garden of Eden. Okay. Verse 16. And the Lord God commanded the man. So that means you better do what I say do. No free will. Okay? I told you to do this, and you better do it. It's just like you telling your kids. If you're a parent, you telling your kids, you better clean your room, or you better go do those dishes, or you better take out that trash. This is a command. You better be quiet. You know what I'm saying? All of that, these are commands. So, and the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Okay, so here's God commanding the man, saying you can eat of everything else, but that tree over there of good and evil, don't mess with it. But he's going to put the tree in Eden. This is how messed up God is in this book. He's going to place the man around the temptation of the tree. Then he's going to tell him, don't eat of it. So now he places curiosity in his mind. The man is probably thinking to himself, what? I wonder what that tree is like. Man, I wonder what that tastes like. Ooh, I can't touch it though, because it's a command. So, if God was trying to help the man, he wouldn't have put him in the Garden of Eden around the temptation of the tree of knowledge of good and evil in the first place. He would have never put him in that predicament. He never would have put him in that situation. So God is setting him up. He's setting the man up, right? So that's not fair. So anyway, all right, moving on. Then you're going to tell him he's going to die if you eat from it. So it's just like you telling your kids something, you better not touch that stove. It's hot. You're cooking from the stove every day. Don't touch that stove. It's hot. And you're cooking from the stove every day. Now the kid watching you cook, they're wondering, what does hot feel like? Oh. What is hot? And then one day you just walk, you got the pot on and stuff like that, and you walk away from the stove, and all of a sudden the kids just look around, see if anybody, they touch that stove. Ah! They find out it's hot. It's hot. So it's like, yeah, now you figure out what hot is, but that's not fair to the kid. You can't be like, hey, look, man, you can't be doing that, okay? Keep the kid out of harm's way. Don't let him go to the stove and this, that, and third. But God didn't do that to the man, right? Now, verse 18, and the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. Really? Many albums, many songs have been created. I hear Luther Vandross now. But anyway, I will make him a helpmate, a helpmeet for him. That's what he called it, a helpmeet. Oh, okay. All right, verse 19. And out of the ground, the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof. Now, finally, this name Adam is introduced to us, right? In verse 19. Now, before that, he was calling him man, right? Now we're giving him a name in verse 19. But God had already created animals in chapter 1. Remember? God had already created animals in chapter 1. So where did they go? So now this, he's saying that he created all of this stuff, every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. So Adam is allegedly given the responsibility of naming all of these animals and things of that nature that are being created, these creatures, allegedly, right? So then they gave him a name, Adam. Funny how Adam, A-D-A-M, spelled for the very first man, allegedly, in the book. And then we also have scientific atoms, A-T-O-M. You see the similarities, the parallels? The atom, which creates the man, forms from the cosmic dust, fashioned on the wheel of Khnum, from the ancient Egyptian mythology, shows you how man was created. Okay? Atoms coming together, billions of atoms being formed. If you look under a microscope and you see atoms, all molecularly structured, in your body, everything is atoms. Everything is made up of atoms. Your body, your physical stuff, wood, trees, and metals, and all types of stuff. Atoms all formed together, elements that came together, right? From the atoms. If you look under a microscope and look closely, you'll see the atoms. Now, it's amazing how, in the Bible, the author understood this, right? I told you it was Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon, the Masonic, Rosicrucian Mason from England, France and England area. He had, knew and understood a little bit about scientific, esoteric meanings. So he put it in the story. You could tell right away. Like anybody with a brain or rationale who do research can tell how he wrote this, the style in which he wrote, so it's very evident. Now for those who don't do research, you will be tricked and confused, and you will actually believe what you read on the surface because you're not knowing what's deeper, the deeper meanings of it. This is the reason why I'm doing this video. All right, so I'm trying to show you the deeper meanings of it. Adam, the name Adam, is really referring to atoms, Atom. Man. That's how man was like, okay, man, woman, and everything like that formed out of atoms. And they got the concept of forming a man from dust or clay from the ancient Egyptian god Khnum. Okay? Khnum, you can go to the temple of Khnum in Esna today and go and see carved in stone the ram head and the man body. This is the god Khnum, who was responsible for fertility and procreation. Okay? And they worshiped Khnum in the first dynastic period back in 2900 BCE. The ancient Africans did. And they had worship temples every year, the festivals and stuff like that, and they worshiped Khnum. Okay? So that's what Khnum was known for. And the Greeks and the Romans who came up with this story, they understood that, and they placed it in the creation story, and then it was plagiarized and continued and perpetuated on by the British from the Roman Catholic Church. And then you had the kings and queens of England who created their version of this story, and they rewrote it. And then Francis Bacon, who when he finally got it in 1611 AD, he put his spin on it. See what I'm saying? So this is his spin. All right, so Adam, right, is really atoms, Atom. All right, Adam. All right, so going back to verse 20. And Adam gave names to all cattle and to the fowl of the air, that means birds, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helpmeet for him. So what is he doing with these animals? A helpmeet. What does that mean? I don't even know what that. Don't give me the start. I want to think about what he was doing with those animals. You know what I'm saying? That. Never mind. I'm not even going to go there. Okay. And the Lord God, verse 21, caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had taken from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. Now, a lot of stuff here, right? The rib of a woman, the rib of man created woman, according to this creation story, right? Now, a lot of people believe this in the church today, and people actually, run with this concept, and they talk about, oh, you my rib, and when they try to meet a new female, a brother come and meet a female he attracted to or something like that, and he be talking to smooth and stuff, be like, oh girl, you my rib, you need to be with me, woo 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 woo, whatever, right? So what they're saying is referencing this, this verse right here. This is verse 20, 21, and 22 of chapter 2 of Genesis, right? So when I told you that Adam is actually the atom, Atom, when you look at an atom under a microscope, you'll see that it has a nucleus in the middle. And around it, you will see protons and electrons firing off, right? The electrons are negative charges and the protons are the positive charges, and it's firing off, right, around the nucleus. And it forms a circle, okay? And that circle, from the protons and electrons firing around the nucleus, creates the atom. Now, those circles look like rib cages, and the nucleus looks like the heart. So when you look at the human body on the inside, you see the heart is here, and then we have rib cages that protects the heart. It goes around it, okay, like ribs and stuff like that. So that's what they're talking about, taking the rib from Adam and creating the woman. All right, so a part of the atom is coming out, taking one of those particles from the atom and then splitting it into two in order to become two individuals. All right, so one atom splits, creates another individual, and then split again, multiplies and multiply, you create multiple people. All right, so this is the concept that they're talking about and referring to. Keep in mind also that people will say that this woman that is created does not have a name. Notice that. So a lot of people will associate her with Eve. And Eve's name is not mentioned in chapter 2. Okay, we'll talk about Eve later. She comes in chapter 4. So this woman that is created from Adam's rib is a totally different person from Eve. It's called woman. Okay, so it told you right there. So it said in verse 23. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. Not Eve, but woman. So where do we get this? Well, Eve was created from Adam's rib. That ain't what the story say. The story don't say that. He said she shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. That's what the story says. It doesn't say, and she shall be called Eve. That's not what it says. But the church will tell you that they're talking about Eve. So they're making assumptions in the church. The theologians, the preachers, the pastors, the Sunday school teachers, they're all reading the book out of context. They're not reading the book right. They're making it up to what they wanted to believe. And it's not what it says. It says, she shall be called woman in verse 23, not Eve. So I don't know where they get that from. But she was taken out of the rib, which is a rib from the atom, A-T-O-M. And a woman was created from the splitting of the atom, and you created a different chromosome. All right? The X and X chromosome from the DNA structure of the created the X and Y. So they got the reverse of, they got the opposite rather of creation. All right. You can't get a male. You can't get a male without a woman. All right. So every one of us is born on this planet came through the womb of a woman. I don't know no other person on this planet. If you are that person, you must be an alien. You're not from this planet. If you didn't come from the womb of a woman, if you say you came from the rib of a man, then you're an alien. Okay? There's no way possible that if that process occurred, or if a woman was created from the rib of a man, that would still be happening today in 2022. But it is not. The evolution is not. Okay? So the capability is not there. It never was. It never existed. Esoterically, they're discussing the rib, which is a part of the atom, which was taken from the atom, which is the protons and electrons that surround the nucleus. A part of that looks like a rib. So they took that negative charge, that electron, and created the woman. So you have to have the duality. Remember, protons are the positive charge, electrons is a negative charge. Duality. Okay? Male, female principles, duality. All right? So you got to understand the esoteric meaning behind this story. Okay? Or else you won't even understand it. It won't make no sense to you. So if you're reading it, it'll be like, this don't make no sense. But you have to understand, and you have to do research to know the deeper meaning, the deeper esoteric meaning. And this is what I'm telling you right now. You can go and research this stuff that I'm saying right now. Go start researching yourself and see and check and verify if what I'm telling you is correct. Go and check. Don't just believe what you're hearing from me. Go and check yourself. You go do the research and then verify if I'm telling you the truth. That's what you should do. Seekers of truth, go and verify and see if I'm telling you the truth. And you're going to find. All right. So moving forward, let's see. Verse 23. Now, we're almost done. Verse 24. There shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Now, this part, I really don't, man, I don't want to get off on a tangent about this verse. I don't want to get off on a tangent, but this is called separation and division. This is a cause of separation and division where, you know, I understand that, you know, you're going to get married, you want to have a partner, and you want to be married to somebody that you're in love with, and this, that, and the third. I understand it. But it's telling you to leave your father and your mother behind. So I understand that you're supposed to, as you come into this world, your father and mother has responsibilities of taking care of you. And then when you grow older, you want to get into relationships, and then you want to start, you know, being in love and all of this stuff like that with your, you know, significant other, and then y'all have your own children and all this, that, and good stuff, right? But it's like, leave your father and mother? I mean, you just gonna discard them? I mean, like, I ain't talking to them no more. I got me a wife now. Like, come on, man. That's the type of stuff I'm looking at it from that perspective. Like, that's weird. But anyway, last verse 25. And they were both naked, right? The man and his wife, and were not ashamed. Now, there was no marriage ceremony that was stated. It just said, this is his wife now, cleaved unto his wife. There was no name of an Eve. There was no marriage ceremony. You know, where do we get these concepts and principles from and these customs that we do today in 2022? It's based upon some of this stuff that we are reading out of these scriptures. The church has dictated and programmed you to think in such a way that you customarily do these things in your life. Like get married. It don't even say get married. It just said that's your wife. That's it. There's no ceremony that shows you that, you know, you get married or nothing like that. There's no ceremony identified here. So where do we get this that's your wife stuff from? Where do we get this wife title? How do you get a title of wife? You know what I'm saying? It's not telling me. This is the second chapter of Genesis. Allegedly, this is supposed to be the very beginning of creation and the very beginning start of everything. The foundation is being laid. Okay? When you build a house, you first build a foundation where you build your, you know what I'm saying, house on top of. This is what Genesis is supposed to be. But it never told you about a marriage ceremony. Where you get this title of wife? What is that? Just something to think about. All right, so listen, that's it. That's it for chapter 2. All right, so like I said before, you know, we're going through this esoteric Bible study, and knowledge has been reborn. All right, so remember, the more you know, the more you'll grow, and the better off we all shall be. So remember to learn more at MaarifaAsarLLC. Don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell icon so you can be notified whenever we drop a new video, okay? So with that being said, subscribe at MaarifaAsarLLC, and we'll see you at the next video. Love and light. Peace.